Hello, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Film Angle. My name is Kris.
And I'm Alex.
And Alex, I feel like I want to sing you a song.
Yeah?
No?
No? Go ahead.
Well, a week ago, when I was really, really excited, we're going to be talking about Disenchanted this week. New Disney movie that dropped on Disney Plus. Long-awaited sort of sequel to 2007's big hit movie Enchanted, and I was really excited for this one. But I don't feel like singing anymore after the new one. It killed it.
Wow. See, I came in from a very different angle. This following weekend, I had never seen Enchanted. I had only seen Disenchanted. No,
Which
I
is
hadn't
ludicrous to me.
Yeah, I had. Sorry, I said I had only seen Disenchanted. I hadn't even seen that one. Yeah, I'd only seen Enchant. No, oh my god, I'm gonna have to. I'm struggling.
No,
I'm
you
struggling.
didn't see any of them. You didn't see.
I didn't see any
nada.
of them. Oh my god, my brain is frazzled. I was in a car crash this week, Kris.
Oh, right. Organic segue. No. I think we should address that. I think it's not an elephant in the room because nobody else is thinking about it, but it's something that happened. Alex, please let everybody know why your brain might be frazzled this week.
Well, I think all the listeners probably already know. Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad. No, it's just in a little road.
That is 80% of the listener base. Yeah,
it was in a road vehicle collision, whatever they call it these days. Yeah, just little bump that rode off the car. It was everybody's all good. It's all good. But clearly, I can't string sentences together, so maybe I should be getting a brain scan.
Yeah, I think you've got like an undiagnosed concussion. I was in work the other day, and Alex, you just messaged me with well, you didn't send me a photograph. You just text me saying, "What do you think of my new car?" What followed was a photograph of an absolutely dented up Dacia Duster car. I looked absolutely like a thing flattened by a pancake. I was like, "Are you joking? Did you just get this picture off the internet?" But no, you were hit right in the side, weren't you?
Yeah, hit right in the side, and it did not flatten like a pancake. Don't scare anybody.
Pretty bad.
It was a bump. Not my favorite day ever, but yeah, it was a bump. It was a big bump.
I think the funny thing as well is that you only had the car for what, like 4 days, 3 days?
Yep, 4 days. 4 days. So
okay,
good times. Good times. Good times. But I did watch Enchanted for the first time,
and I made everything better. Or was this before or after?
This was before. I guess I watched Enchanted on the same day I bought the car. So there you go.
Maybe that.
And then I watched Disenchanted on the Sunday. So
that's a weird thing, right? Because I had so many years separated. I was there from day one in 2007 when Enchanted came out. I remember like Disney Channel advertising it nearly on a daily basis. It was a really big thing at the time. My obviously having 2 older sisters, those kind of movies are going to be really popular in our household. So whenever it came around, Disenchanted was being announced. It was amazing because I knew all the songs from the original, but you're coming at it from a really different angle where you're watching both back to back for the first time on the same weekend, which is really strange because both of these movies feel like they are from different times.
100%. I fully agree with that statement, and I quite liked watching Enchanted, and it's I assume it was shot on film. It's got that kind of graininess.
It looks like a movie.
New York feels like New York, and I mean I've seen trailers for this film. I know the general gist. I've always been interested in trying to catch it at some point. I just the timing never happened. Never came on the radar at the right time for me to give it a watch, but I always knew it'd be something I liked because those kind of meta films that kind of break down the genre and all that kind of stuff. It was Disney poking fun at itself, and it always seemed like a good fun time. But yeah, I really enjoyed Enchanted. I guess for me, I was watching the second one, going, okay, so there's been it's been a long time since 2007. How many years has it been? It's been like 15 years, right?
Yeah.
If my maths is correct.
That's right. That's right.
Like, why are we making a sequel now to a film that did really well? Like, why have we waited, and why is 2022 the time? You know, and I couldn't really pinpoint that in the new film, but unless you have a different take.
I think the answer is really simple. I mean, why are they remaking any of these movies and putting them on the Disney Plus, right? I think it's low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
and it's something that has always been in the air for years, and fans have always speculated and always wanted to see what happened to these characters later. And I think it was just an easy thing for them to pick up again, and there was enough of a fan base where they can make that happen and probably and do it on the cheap as well. But like, yeah, like, and that's the thing I'll get into later on about this movie is you noted how cinematic and real and tangible the first movie looked, especially in its like New York setting. This movie looks like it was shot on the set of a sitcom. That's
Yeah.
that's the real difference here, and it takes you out pretty quickly. Yeah, it's interesting that you said earlier that it's a meta take on Disney that's sort of poking fun at itself, and I feel like that's the thing. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like a lot of people kind of got that wrong over the years that it's just Disney making fun of itself. But at the same time, it's kind of a love letter to the princess films too. It's making fun of being one, and it is one at the same time. It's kind of like the perfect amalgamation of that, and its earnestness kind of comes through, and the earnestness of Giselle as a character, as a naive, wide-eyed young woman, kind of she kind of uh, transposes onto a very cynical New York. Her expression and how she is infectious to everybody else around her, and ultimately she is what overcomes and makes the movie so bright and vibrant.
Was this a like, because obviously I remember it being advertised at the time, but the main thing I got from watching this film was this Disney's reaction to Elf? Because
Oh, that's a really good comparison actually, because I think Elf is what 5 years before this, 2003
yeah,
I think Elf, but it does feel like the same sort of fish out of water in a
yeah,
cynical setting. Yeah,
the idea that we become jaded as a society and the fantastical world is this kind of different, more positive place, and this kind of childlike, nothing phases me. I'm happy. I'm positive. I'm lovely.
yeah,
Obviously, infects the world around them. They dismiss it as ridiculousness, but in fact, it is almost a better way of living, potentially. Um,
yes,
yeah, I really like that. I like the fish out of water. So I thought, yeah, this Enchanted kind of, I don't think it was as well done as Elf, but I think it was brilliant, and Amy Adams sells it. I don't,
mm.
you put the wrong type of actress in there who maybe kind of winks at the audience a bit. I don't think it works, but Amy Adams, she sells
She's
this
just like a
idea
ball of
that she's
energy,
like,
isn't she?
yeah, there's no wink, there's no kind of like, haha, I know what I'm doing, I'm being silly. It's like, no, no, this is me. I am this kind of uber positive fairy tale princess brought into New York. She does
Hmm.
it without a hint of irony, and yeah, that's ballsy. I loved it.
And the writing is so smart. It's so funny. There are a lot of lines I can think of come up to the top of my head that Giselle saying like talks about whenever the first time she ever uses a shower in an apartment, and she's so naive about it. She doesn't know where the water comes from, where the pipes get the water from. She thinks it's just magical water.
Mm.
It's all these little things like that, and the people around. She's like surrounded by. She falls into the lap of a young girl and her father, who's played by Patrick Dempsey, and he's sort of like a bogged down, divorced. No, not divorced. I think he's a widower, right?
Um. Yes, yes. They
Yes,
don't really bring up what happened to the mum,
but
but
I think it's implied that she died.
it's I couldn't remember if it was implied she died or she just left.
Hmm. Because
But
because the way they talk about it, like the way him and the daughter Morgan talk to each other, and I think he's trying to protect her as well. It's almost as if we miss mom, and things aren't the same whenever as when she was around. So I think it's Disney's sort of like light-hearted way of saying that she's not like with them anymore. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie in a while, but that's how I always saw it.
yeah, I don't think it fully gets down to, but Yeah, maybe there is. Trying to remember from Saturday, but I was in a car crash. Um,
You almost
uh,
made a widower out of somebody too, right?
take a shot every time I mention it. The new film angle.
You're just
um,
not the same person anymore.
just not the same person. I've been through trauma. Um,
The PTSD is just like absolutely coursing through you right now.
oh man, shouldn't joke about these things. Shouldn't joke about these things because it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
It could have been worse, yeah. And I'd be sitting here hosting a podcast by myself. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
like you're
I don't even want
irreplaceable,
to.
buddy.
I don't even want to ask what the contingency plan is for the filmmaker. Maybe we should do this on air.
There is no contingency plan. That's the thing.
The film angle's most morbid episode ever. So what were we saying? Yeah, dead mum. Yeah, I don't think it explicitly says dead mum, but it definitely.
I was trying to
I
beat
think
around the bush. I wasn't trying to explicitly say dead mum, but like it's the movie's kind of saying that, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's implied, but not explicitly said. Just says she left. But
Because it's
yeah,
a
there was.
kids movie. You don't want to bum the kids out.
I think so. I think so. I mean, we might be wrong. Maybe we both completely misremember the first film,
Well,
but
like yes, like I was saying, she steps into this guy's lap. He's a bogged down widower, divorcee. We don't know. But he's a lawyer and he's very bogged down with work. He seems to be sort of obsessed with looking at the world in a cynical way, in a black and white way, that he doesn't believe in the whole fairy tale thing. And he happens to come into his life somebody who thinks that love and fairy tales are the only way to be. That's the
yeah,
only way to look at the world. That everything's magical. And yeah,
perfect,
and it's just a
perfect
really cool
writing.
dynamic.
Perfect writing. Who is the least likely person to believe in forever afters and relationships and love stories?
Divorce lawyer.
A divorce lawyer. I thought that was really good. Really good, kind of like just clever little character thing.
Oh yeah, and she goes along with him to to his days at work where he's settling a case between a divorcing couple, and that stuff is hilarious. Where they're going back and forth about a baseball card that that they can't give up to each other. Who has ownership of this Hank baseball
Yes.
card, and that stuff cracks me up. Where she's like, "You never loved me like you loved Hank."
And it's the guy from The Wire who goes, she.
Yes.
I liked that.
Um,
He
but
doesn't
no, I
say it
mean,
in the film, though.
I think the biggest thing that what Enchanted really had its staying lasting power is obviously the humor and its heartfeltness. But I think the songs are just really stand out in this first movie. I don't know how you felt, but like I feel like I remember 90% of those songs pretty, especially the big massive Central Park musical number. That's always like the thing. Whenever I think of
Yeah.
it about Enchanted, I think about that big "How Does She Know" number and how much of a showstopper that is, and kind of just sums up what the movie is going for.
Yeah, that's the song I was kind of humming after the film had finished.
Yes,
Definitely.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, I liked it. It's a good, fun film. It's good fun. It's a lot of fun.
And we now fast forward to Disenchanted, where how does this movie start? Right, they're moving away from Manhattan into the suburbs in a town called, is it called Monroeville?
Yes, yeah, which is Ireland, I believe, or Northern Ireland. I don't know
Yes,
which
it
one.
was shot in Ireland. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
But it feels like Giselle and Morgan aren't really kind of getting on anymore. Morgan's grown up, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a lazy plot device. I felt that Morgan's like the grumpy teenager, and they don't really connect properly, and which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad in a way because they were so integral to the first movie and their connection. I don't know how I felt watching it the day before and then suddenly seeing them at odds with each other. That kind of felt weird, even watching it 15 years later.
yeah. There's an element of that for sure. But I guess you kind of like, all right, so she's grown up, she's a teenager. We're going down the stereotypical like teenager is struggles with the positivity. I didn't bump into it maybe as much as you did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a trope, isn't it? It's a trope. It's not exactly an original thing.
Yeah, and I've seen people say that like they get it because Morgan's older now and she's not into the princesses and fairy tales and she doesn't see the world in that way. But I think you're kind of forgetting the fact that Morgan knows that this person, this Giselle, actually is a fucking real princess. You know, so you know, it's not like it's fake or anything.
No.
She literally is a living embodiment of the thing. But yeah, so they pack up and they move away. To be honest, it felt like a reason to shoot the movie cheaply.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's it though. Like, like I was saying earlier, like why is this film being made in 2022? And you're right, it's a straight to Disney Plus film.
Hmm.
Despite the fact that the first film was a bit of a hit, and we are going back to a film with a bit of nostalgia. Like people I think might have gone to the cinema to see this one. I don't know, maybe, but it feels like a straight to DVD sequel, doesn't it? It
I,
seems like a lot of it was even filmed on green screen, despite the fact that you have the beautiful Irish village that they filmed in
mm,
there. Some of the kind of like even when they're inside, just like some of the optics of the room look just like it's slightly off.
it was
Like
yeah.
Amy Adams is slightly bigger in some angles,
It
and the
looked like
room is
everything
like
was done on a fisheye sometimes.
yeah, very strange. I mean, if there was ever a film to or like a double feature to kind of push film over digital, it was this one. Like straight away, it hasn't got that kind of feel that the first film has, and that kind of that CGI shiny polished sheen to it that a lot of films, especially from big studios, seem to have these days.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's a real shame because, and also the way everything is shot in this film, it looks like everything's overexposed and bright, and it looks like it has like
Mm.
an Instagram blur filter on everybody's faces. Everybody is
What
so
is
like
with the
reflective,
exposure? What, like, I bumped into that. What is with the exposed everything? Like the
especially when they shoot
windows are so
Amy
bright.
Adams. It feels especially.
Internally, just the exposure coming from the windows just feels so weird.
Yeah, see, I think it's that thing where they're trying to do the whole Stepford Wives suburbia thing at the same time when they're, I don't know why that was really an angle for this movie. Then, but I guess that would make sense why everything's all bright and cheerful. I mean, the budget for flowers on this movie is ridiculous. I mean, like every shot of this movie has like a million flowers in the background for some reason.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, it's bizarre. But the cardinal sin that I feel like this movie just completely commits is there's not one. I don't think there's one memorable or decent song in this whole movie.
Not to the same extent. I don't remember humming any of them
Can you
afterwards.
remember a single lyric or a tune to any of the songs you heard the other night?
Uh, I liked the villain song. Um, so Amy Adams and Maya
Maya Rudolph.
Rudolph
Yeah,
doing their kind of duet. I quite liked that. And like you got to give the film its dues. Like it tried to try to fit the meta angle in there a bit. It's not nearly as well done as the first film, but you get the evil stepmother tropes and the wicked witch tropes, or like wicked queen, should I say, not witch, wicked queen tropes,
mm,
and how there can't be two villains in the story and all this kind of stuff. Like that stuff is fun. I can get on board with that. It's not. It doesn't. It kind of loses the essence of what the first film was, but it's a different
100%.
beast. It's a different beast, but yeah, I mean the villain song I thought was good. I can't remember any others.
But I think that's the whole part of the problem is I don't think there ever should have been a sequel to Enchanted. I think it was kind of always intended to be a one and done. It was topped up with a closer. It had a definitive ending, and the message was told. I mean, you can't, lightning doesn't strike twice in terms of how innovative the sort of meta aspect of that movie was.
Mm,
You can't do that again because the joke's already being told. What are you gonna do? You're gonna tell the joke again? They do that for the first 10 minutes of this movie, and it's kind of funny and charming. I have to admit, for the half of the first act, I was sort of back in that world. But as the movie went on and started getting bogged down with the mother and daughter relationship, the stepmother relationship, and the high school stuff and just the interplays that were going on in the town, it was just getting more and more disinteresting as the movie went along. And I just feel like it has a sort of downward ramp effect as you go through the movie. And it's just over 2 hours long as well. I mean, it really, this should have been like an 80 to 90 minutes job.
Definitely, definitely.
Like the third act, I actually struggled to think about what the stakes were in the third act. Going back and thinking about it, because I had to admit, like, I had to pause it for a second, go get myself a cup of coffee, because 2/3 into it, I was getting sleepy.
Well, there you go. There you go. I think I was starting to zone out by the end. Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely flicked on the phone a couple times near the
Oh,
end. I won't
you're
lie.
you're terrible for that, buddy.
How do you know?
Because every time we talk about movie, you say, "Oh, yeah, I only went on my phone twice this time, so it was pretty good." Uh,
I don't have the attention span I once did. I don't know where it's gone. That's why cinema's so good. It forces you to take out those distractions.
Not everybody, though.
Um, yeah, that's true. Not everybody. Not everybody.
I
But
don't. Wait,
if you respect cinema etiquette, then you have a good time.
well, I don't know. What I feel like, I'm kind of shitting on this movie a lot, but there were things I really really liked. It was really cool to see the hand drawn animation back. Makes me happy and makes me sad at the same time, because I really miss that era of Disney. I think was the last completely hand drawn Disney film we got was Princess and the Frog, and that was 2009. I feel
Mm,
like people are really yearning. I think there's a real want to see hand drawn Disney back again, and I think, I
yeah.
don't know, is this their way of telling us that maybe there are things on the horizon? Because I feel like we get a lot more hand drawn this time than the first movie.
Yes. I don't know if you ever bumped up against this in the first one or not, but do you think like the hand drawn animation isn't nearly as good as it could be? Like it
Mm,
doesn't feel like an actual Disney princess movie animation.
I think it's trying to have its own identity. I think
Yeah.
it's also kind of trying to also remind you by having the different art style that, like, this isn't going to be the whole thing the whole
Yes,
way going
true.
through. And I think if it looks like a Disney film, kids might be confused by that. So I think they went for a sort of different vibe there, and it makes sense to me.
No,
But
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have to hit all the notes in the second one, don't they? Go back to the animation style
yeah,
for a minute and all that kind of stuff.
but even that is not as exciting as or interesting as it was in the first movie, because the writing is just so off. It feels. I've seen a lot of people. I saw somebody write on Letterbox on their review saying that it reminded them a lot of the Once Upon a Time TV show,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
it's actually quite coincidental, because the main writer from that TV show, she wrote this movie. Um, so it definitely has that feeling of it where it feels a bit more like not necessarily fan fiction, but like a B tier take on the fantasy stuff. It's not rewriting or reinventing the wheel in terms of what it's doing with its characters. It is a story you've seen before.
Yeah.
The only difference is that it's set in the world of Enchanted, and it's trying to get as much out of that goodwill as possible.
Yes, I agree. I agree, and it also felt like James Marsden was not available.
Hundred percent,
He has a
hundred
brief
percent.
cameo, and then they leave him in.
Oh,
Wow,
because when
what do they call the animated world again? And Alasia?
and Alasia, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They leave him there for quite a big chunk of the movie. I was like,
Yeah, that's right.
okay,
That's right. Like, it's Adina
couldn't get him
Menzel
over to
and
Ireland.
the Adina Menzel character and Morgan. They're just like, all right, we're going to go back to the real world and let's sort this out. Yeah, Edward, you stay here and you protect the kingdom. And yeah, he's like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's a shame, because whenever James Marsden shows up, when they arrive in the real world, they come out of the wishing well, and it's like a reunion for the characters. That bit's really fun, because James Marsden just does like the himbo thing so well. It's one of the highlights of the
Yeah.
the first movie. Yeah, just not enough to do here. I think everybody was sort of missing him there. I don't think you're alone.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. And also Amy Adams is really good in this. You can't deny
Yeah,
that. But it is another kind of film in her recent, filmography that just is like, I don't know. You don't want to say it's the downfall of Amy Adams, because I doubt she'll ever have a downfall. But this is a bit of a. I'd fire her agent, is what I'm trying to say, for the last couple of years.
She's in a bumpy part of her career right now for sure. Her last few movies have been not necessarily stinkers, but they've been like, pretty low mixed received movies that have been like streaming platforms, and they haven't been
I'm just gonna have a look now because I want to know what her last good movie was, and
what her
I
last
don't want to.
big.
I don't want to say it was Arrival, because she was incredible in Arrival, and she's
Yes.
an incredible
That's what
actress. Like the fact that she can do Arrival, and she can do Enchanted and the Muppets. Yeah, she's excellent.
yeah.
And she's brilliant at all of this. She's got quite the range.
No,
Uh,
she's super
oh
versatile.
no, she was in a good film, Chris. She was in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I mean, I can call a movie I have
Oh
not
yeah.
seen and probably will never see.
Oh, sorry. She was in Hillbilly Elegy.
Oh yes,
Did you ever
yes.
watch that film?
I watched the trailer and I was like, melodrama the movie
I watched it. I watched that film. Yeah.
with Glenn Close trying so hard for that
Yeah.
Oscar.
It's
What was it
it's
like?
difficult, really difficult film, painful, not engaging, and just feels very a little bit tone deaf,
Yeah,
and just
forced emotion.
it came out at a weird political time as well, and it was just a very strange film
Mm,
for Ron Howard to make, and for the cast to jump on board. It just wasn't. It was a really try hard Oscar bait film, but came across as like
mm.
hallmark
Although
kind
I
of
haven't
right
seen it,
wing
I'm saying
biography
although I
film.
haven't seen it, I heard that miniseries she was in, Sharp Objects, was pretty well received. Yeah, but that's kind of it. I mean, yeah, she's kind of had a bit of a like Dear Evan Hansen before this movie, The Woman in the Window, another movie that doesn't really exist. Um,
Vice
yeah,
was okay. Vice was okay, I
mm,
guess. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, yeah, man, she
she
needs to
needs
get
another
back in
heavy
touch
hitter.
with Denis Villeneuve. Get in, get her
Yeah,
in Dune 2.
get, get, she can be the emperor.
uh,
It is interesting. I do feel, and also I feel like Maya Rudolph is a bit of a missed opportunity here. I think there's definitely fun that she's having on screen, but it's small facial reactions that are kind of chuckle inducing a couple of times. And I feel like, I don't know if she wasn't given enough range or the movie didn't give her enough like space to kind of be herself. I feel like you're right in the song that her and Amy Adams have where they're both going up against each other. That's kind of fun. There's a little bit of
yeah.
spice in there, but
I thought her
yeah,
costume design was great. I thought she looked really good as the evil queen when they properly go out with the evil queen costume. I thought costume design was really good.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, the movie's costumes in general are really, really good.
Mm,
That's you know, that's a given. But there's just no substance.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like we could get into the end part of this movie, the kind of the climax, but you know what? I'm kind of bored talking about it myself. I'm sure everybody else, if you want to catch up with Disenchanted, it's on there. But I feel like it is ultimately a disappointment. Um, yeah, I know you didn't have as much hype or investment going into this movie, but for me, and I feel like for a lot of fans, it just didn't really hit the heights of the original, and it's a shame. It seems like that's the trend for Disney, and just going forward, I think like I hope they just kind of reassess themselves, and they're kind of hitting this. What I kind of touched on in my letterbox review is that the late 90s and the early 2000s, they really try to capitalize on their investment on their existing Disney properties and do the straight to video releases, which were just like subpar, um, terrible songs, just straight up sequels to the originals that stupid kids like me seem to lap up. It's really weird. If you talk to a lot of people, I think a lot of people like prefer, so those people out there prefer Lion King 2 to the first Lion King when they were kids, because we were all just dumb and we didn't get, we didn't
Yeah.
get what a good story was. But I feel
I
like we're
liked
in
Lion
that
King
same
too.
phase with Disney Plus again. I feel like they're doing exactly the same thing. I think history is repeating itself. Um,
They're driving subscribers at the end of the day, aren't they? That's their big thing at the moment. They driving subscribers become a rival to Netflix, which I think they're pretty much at. So we're still seeing probably
oh yeah,
films that were in production at a time when they were like, we need to bring stuff to the platform to keep drumming up support. Maybe that'll change. Maybe they've listened to you, Chris, because on Sunday night they got rid of their CEO and changed him for their previous one. You know.
yes, Bob Iger's back on the chair, and I think people are really, really happy about that. But it's going to be really interesting to see how that really changes the scope of where things are going, because now we'll be actually able to see how much power a CEO has over his company, and if changes go in a more positive direction, then that can be really interesting and really shows that an individual does have a lot of precedent over a company like that.
Mm.
Because I feel like people only have animosity for the guy who just left. So yeah, I think any news, any change is good in terms of Disney at the minute. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's but yeah, you can definitely check out Disenchanted. It's on Disney Plus. Didn't have a theatrical release. Probably better. I think word of mouth would have really made this movie sink. I think it would have done well in its first week of release, but I think it would have dropped off really, really badly. So probably the right thing to do on their part. Anything else you catch up with the last sort of weekend or so? Been
Yeah,
productive?
I would say probably one of the films that I really enjoyed and didn't really know much about before this weekend. I just heard that people kind of loving on this documentary that Jonah Hill made about his therapist called Stutz or Stutz. I'm not sure how he pronounces his surname. I'm pretty sure they say it in the film, but it's a really kind of interesting film because yeah, he's Jonah Hill is chronicling the kind of life and teachings of his therapist. His kind of objective at the start of the film is to shine a light on some of the things that he does, some of the practices that he and theories and things that he's used to kind of help
Mm,
Jonah Hill in his life. And he's saying, I want to share with the world some of the things that have made my life, better. Jonah Hill's gone through a bit of stuff from dealing with his kind of weight and the kind of social aspects and celebrity aspects of kind of society that have come with that and burdened him
mm,
with all these kind of um things which obviously affect you. And then he lost his brother, I can't remember how many years ago, but in a quite a sudden way.
right.
And kind of it's almost like this film is therapy for Jonah Hill. He very much says at the start of the film, like, I don't want to talk about me. I don't want to talk about my brother. I want to keep this film about you. But I think, he's there front and center in the film. I think we all know that the film is also quite a little bit about him as well. And it doesn't take long before the whole objective of the film is addressed. Within like 20, 30 minutes, it's kind of turned on its head and is kind of a lot of meta kind of uh,
Interesting.
visuals and sequences are used to kind of, you know, if you were not on board with the film to begin with, then you're like, something different is happening. If you were on board with the film, I think it just keeps you going,
Mm.
this is gonna be very fresh, and it's not gonna be an hour and a half, 2 hours of Jonah Hill talking to his therapist. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Therapy's not a big thing in the UK. I've not been to therapy myself. Maybe I'll
There's
have to after
still
my car crash.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at you right now, and you're looking a bit
I'm in
sweaty there,
therapy
buddy.
right now with you, Chris.
Oh, thanks, buddy. No, I think you're right though. I think there's still like a real negative sort of connotation with mental health in general and being open about mental health. I feel like a lot of people still see it as weakness or something that's to be ashamed of, and I think that's got a lot to do with families and in terms of people trying to project their version of a perfect family to their peers, and whenever somebody's got like a mental health problem, they end up being the black sheep of the family, which is, it's just terrible because it's something that should be recognized just like a physical ailment. It's something that cannot be helped. And I have family members who've dealt with mental health issues and went to therapy, and it's something that it's normal to me. It's something, if it helps you, and if it helps you access or tap into the problems that you've had and helps you in the long run, then absolutely go for it. And I think we need to get used to it not being a taboo subject in our society. I'm not sure how much different that is in America, but certainly living in Britain, in the UK, it's still a problem. So interesting to watch a movie and learn from these movies, and learn to see people, normal people, even celebrity status. They're people too. See how they deal with situations that are very similar to our own, and that's therapy in itself. Just to even watch that.
Yeah, I mean, so Phil Stutz, the therapist, kind of reveals his kind of tools for
Stutzy.
different, which are Stutzy, yeah, which are basically like different coping mechanisms. But he's kind of a bit of a, you can tell he's not your normal therapist. He's got a bit of a potty mouth on him, and
Right. Okay.
he's got the jokes, and he's you can tell he's not you'll just sit there and listen therapist. And he
Cross-legged
kind of
and
says, like, I
yeah.
kind of fought against a few of these things when I was training, and I was just like, we should be helping people, we shouldn't just be listening to people and stuff like that. So yeah, you get to learn about some of the tools, and obviously, if that if this film helps one or two people, I'm sure Jonah Hill will be very happy that he's been able to kind of get it out there. But yeah, really interesting, and just kind of really sweet. And you say I'm on my phone a lot, Chris. For a film which is just about two dudes talking, I did not look at my phone. So you
Well,
know,
that's good. That's good. And to be honest, I was sleeping on this one. You mentioned this to me the other night when we were talking about recording this episode, and I had to confess I hadn't heard about this movie. I don't know much about Jonah Hill's personal life. I know through just talking to people generally and being on social media platforms that people have been really sort of project their feelings of on his weight, and how that is kind of escalated, de-escalated throughout his career, and how it's fluctuated, and people seem to always have an opinion on that, and generally negative and sneering, um, which is like, it's completely secondary to the person and the characters he plays on screen. It's the same sort of thing with Rebel Wilson, where it's like, we liked her when she was big, and now that she's lost the weight, nobody wants anything to do with her. It's like everybody's completely turned on that personality. So it's interesting to see that on screen. I had to. Where can we watch this at the minute?
Netflix. It's a straight to Netflix production.
Sorry, net what? I only go on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it seems
It's
that
it's,
way.
it's the king of platforms, isn't
Hmm. Well, I'm sure Stutz will be driving subscribers to Netflix.
it?
It probably won't.
Stufflix.
But no, it's good. It's really interesting, and just kind of like, I don't know. It's just really intrigued by everything, and yeah, it's just one of those films that makes you think. Um,
I
yeah,
like things
just
that make you
very,
think.
yeah, very interesting, and it just turns a few things on its head, and yeah, I think it's quite smart. I think the general consensus is this is a really lovely film. Um, that really kind of is quite raw and emotional at times. My favorite part of the film is actually a moment
Hmm.
where Jonah Hill brings his mum into the discussion with him and his therapist, and they have this really kind of honest and open and yeah, like very open discussion, which you almost feel a little bit uncomfortable even being part of it, essentially, as a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
But they're very open with each other, and yeah, I think that was the kind of most that it was quite most profound moment for me, and that was
Yes.
yeah, that kind of stuck with me, that discussion in particular.
No, that's really good, Alex. Thanks for sharing about that. I wonder if I could share something with you. I was last sort of month, I don't know, or two, I think, with us starting new work and starting new jobs, it's been kind of hard to really watch things that are classically taxing. Go back to older cinema, watch things that are probably more, I don't know, intellectually more stimulating. I think when I get home, I want to watch something that's a bit more like a Netflix original movie, or when something like Disenchanted comes along, I'm like, hell yeah, that's easy bank in the letterbox profile. I won't have to concentrate too hard. Well, it turned out to be completely the opposite in this case. But no, I managed to be a good boy and do some homework over the weekend, and which turned out not to be homework. I caught up with Akira Kurosawa's original 1952 classic, Ikiru, which was an experience. I thought it was going to be a movie I would appreciate, just like any other classic 1950s 40s golden age movie that's up on a pedestal. You think I'm gonna enjoy this, and I'll come out of it thinking, yeah, that was very good, very technically well made. I can see why people like it, but ultimately it doesn't hit. But I felt kind of not emotionally overwhelmed, but I was definitely, this movie stayed with me, and I feel like it will stay with me for quite some time. You get that odd movie every once in a while that makes you feel like you could be a better person. You've learned something from it, and there are values in there that can you can take and adopt into your personal life. And it's interesting that you get that from a movie that's what 70 years old now.
Mm.
So it kind of the story kind of focuses on a bureaucrat who works in a public liaison office. He's been working there for like 30 years. He's like at retirement age. He's a bit of a ghost, really. He's kind of like a ghoulish kind of bloke. He just sits at a table, punches papers, works with colleagues who are also like younger embodiments of him. Just kind of sold as people who just push public issues around to different offices. Oh, that's not our problem. They just do their daily work. And it feels like he hasn't lived for kind of all his life. And he leaves work early one day to go to a doctor's appointment. And it is discovered that he has stomach cancer. Um, so what then comes at the end of this movie in a really kind of organic way. It's not like you know, it's a wonderful life sort of life is beautiful. Hey, I've got this whole outlook on thing. It's a very subtle movie. It's very toned down, and everything, the emotions are really well earned. And he kind of goes on this odyssey to kind of regain the things that he missed out on in life. So he's got 6 months to live. He doesn't tell his son and his son's wife because he lives with them actually. The dynamic there at home, they're quite frustrated with him. They don't like living under his roof. They tell him what to do, and he doesn't feel like he can connect with his son. And that's kind of the crux, the core. That's kind of sad thing about this movie. He discovers one of his co-workers is a young girl who wants to quit the business because she's like, I don't want this. You guys are just punching papers all day. I don't want to end up being like you. So he sees in her a youthfulness, a vibrancy in life, a thirst for life that he never had. And he starts to follow her around and kind of pick up and admire her. And it becomes this really beautiful movie about, doing things that are outside your boundaries and pushing yourself to do things even if they're uncomfortable, and just learning to be a good people and person, and treat people around you the way they should be treated, and how that ripples around with people around you. But it's an incredible movie. It's especially strange coming from Akira Kurosawa because all the movies I had seen from him at this point have been like swashbuckling, samurai epics that deal with big emotions and screams and sword fights and everything. And to see something that's so delicate, especially for the 50s, it's not big in melodrama or emotion. It's really toned down. Has one of probably the best performances I've ever seen in a foreign language film by Takashi Shimura, who plays the main character, Mr. Watanabe. He is so good in this movie, and he breaks my heart. Like the poster you see of this movie of him sitting on the swing is a big part of the movie, and you'll note it when you see it. It's a bit of a musical moment, and it's really hard not to well up. So that was my homework over the weekend because I really wanted to see the new English live action version of this movie that just came out, called
Bill,
Living.
Bill Nye, yeah.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. No, no, Bill Nye are very, which is great. I went into the movie thinking like, really, what else can it do? It's set in a different era. It's set in 1950s London, and it focuses on it's pretty much script for script the same movie, apart from some changes. Scene for scene, they kind of run they kind of run similarly, but has its own different flavor to the
Yeah.
original movie, and that's what it does really, really well. It's so well shot. It's beautifully acted by Bill Nye, because I feel like Bill Nye's at a place in his life where he actually, in his personal life, is I think, very frail and vulnerable. I think that comes through on screen. He's battled really hard the last 10 years with arthritis, and
Mm.
that adds a bit of vulnerability to him on the screen. And I think it's very self aware. It is also, like the original movie, a really toned down performance from him. He's really focused, and he's not going for the Oscar moment here. There's nothing of that in the movie, which I really appreciated, because if it went into that territory, the movie would just flat out not work.
Mm.
It would be, if the poster would be like a man jumping up and down and everything's like all wonderful, but no, it's quite quiet and meditative. And even though it's kind of shot for shot nearly the same movie, it's 40 minutes less than the original movie, actually, which is quite surprising. I would have actually liked this movie to be a little bit longer, but for people who haven't seen Ikiru before, and don't want to sit down and see a 3 hour Japanese movie, I think you're going to get the same sort of feeling coming out of Living. I think you're going to have that vibrancy, that thirst for life that the movie wants you to have. And just like the original, it had a staying power on me too. So, I think it was a really good double bill. And if anybody, wants to broaden their horizon, definitely go check both of them out.
Nice. Wow. You've sold me, but then you said 3 hours. I was like, oh god.
No,
3 hours.
well, I exaggerated. The Ikiru's more. It's like 2.5. It's like 2.5. It's not too bad.
Ah, fair enough. No, I like it. It sounds like a really profound double bill. That must be really interesting as well, since not only is the time that these films were made so different, but so is the culture of each setting, and I think that's really interesting. I think I might have to do this double bill myself at some point.
I think the thing that makes it different is because a lot of this movie has to deal with death. And obviously, the way the Japanese relationship with death is very different to the British relationship with death and the Western culture. So, even though there are not those changes in the script, the social aspect is there on screen and you can feel it, and it's in the characters and how they talk to each other, and how they present themselves. So it is a completely different movie, but the same movie at the same time. I think it's not just like it feels like it would just be an exercise, but it really isn't. It really holds its own, and maybe it's not as good as Ikiru, like very not marginally different, but it holds its own 100%. I would recommend both to anybody.
Well, thank you for that, Chris. I think we are going to end the episode here on that lovely note. There were 2 double bills in this episode, and I think all audiences will probably know the double bill to check out.
I feel like they do, but they'll check out the other double bill.
The more accessible one, because they're both ready to stream on Disney Plus.
But
no
one wants to watch a movie about a terminally ill man, unfortunately.
So, I don't know. Sometimes I like to cry. I like to cry at films, But yes, that has been it for this episode. Come back next week when we discuss our top 5 favorite car crashes in films.
We didn't talk about this.
Oh man, it was a bit.
What's a bit?
Like like a little ha, like a ha.
No, this is serious, Alex. You had a serious accident.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to bring it back to me again. You know how I like to do it.
Yeah, it's all about you, buddy.
It is all about me, and I
gotta look out for number 1.
I was the one in the car crash.
I'm gonna hear about this for like the rest of our lives now. Like, this is a picture of me, what I would have looked like when I was in hospital. I nearly went to hospital, man. I mean, I was nearly there.
I spoke to the doctors. Yeah. Nah, it was all good. Anyway, no, we're not doing top 5 car crashes. That was a bit.
That could be fun though.
If you know what a bit is, it's too soon. It's too soon.
Too soon. The drama is raw.
I'll never be able to watch a Fast and Furious film ever again.
Cowering behind the sofa.
Though that being said, I think I've only seen 2 Fast and Furious films. I've always said we should maybe do that. Anyway, this is behind the scenes of the podcast happening right now.
Alex, I want to stop you right there. We should totally do Fast and Furious. I've only seen like 2 Fast and Furious movies. We got to do that.
Yeah, I know. No, is it number 10 coming out next year, and that's like the final
Oh,
one?
really? Is that including the spin-off?
No, I don't
Hobbs and
think the
Shaw?
numbering is. So there would have been an 11. Whatever it is, it's like Fast and Furious, like X, and it's like the end, right?
Is this the one where they finally like time travel?
I don't know. They went to space in the last
They
one.
went to space in the
Apparently.
last one, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, we've gone off on a tangent, guys. Check us out on Instagram. We're on there. I'm on Twitter whilst Twitter is still around. Might not be around by the time this episode comes out.
All
But
right,
yeah,
Twitter.
check out the film angle. Let your friends know about us, and where you can rate and review us. Please do, and let us know what you think. There's always at the in Spotify now a little Q&A. So if you're listening on Spotify, jump over to the little Q&A session and let us know what you think about the episode. All feedback is taken on board.
Taken on board, not necessarily appreciated, but only if you tell us we're amazing.
Yeah, like positive feedback would be great. Just, nothing needs
we're sensitive
to change.
boys.
Yeah, nothing needs to change. Please remember, I've been through a traumatic. Anyway, gotta stop. Anyway, this has been the film angle for this week. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
Good night.
Wear your seatbelts.
Yes, always wear your seatbelt.